Welcome to Legends of Change, a special edition. Why is this a special edition? Simply because we revisit our legends and we get a bit more personal with them on lessons they have learned during the year 2022 and plans for 2023 while they get ready and dress up for a special treat at a few restaurants in Windhoek that have offered to spoil our community legends to a very delicious signature meal. There is lots to learn, so stay tuned. Remember Julia Nambinga? At just 22 years old, while studying in one of the most difficult and demanding courses, she opened a company that brought a lot of relief to her fellow medical students as well as herself.
My name is Julia Nambinga. I'm currently 22 years old, born and bred from the northern parts of the country, particularly on Gwediva. So I initially started my primary school at Charles Anderson Primary School. That was from grade 1 to grade 7. Thereafter, I moved to Oshigambo High School from grade 8 to grade 12, where I completed. And then I was admitted at the UNAM School of Medicine, where I'm studying towards a Bachelor in Medicine and Surgery. And I currently just completed my 5th year. LoC Medical Supplies was birthed in 2018. So 2018, I was in my 3rd year, and that's also the time where we are introduced to the clinical aspect of the course. That means you start going to the hospitals more, and with that said, that means you're usually in need of scrubs, of coats, of this little equipment that medical students usually need. So I saw a niche at that time because we were struggling. There was a bit of a problem with acquiring these items because where we usually used to source them, it was far, number one, and number two, because it wasn't very affordable for a student. And I wanted to create a system that was, number one, affordable for students, because initially my target market was just students, and also something that's easily accessible. People can just make a few calls and at your doorstep, there it is.
Now that we remember Julia, let's hear how 2022 was for her. But first, she would like to share her experience on Legends of Change.
So when our program aired on NBC, the Legends of Change program, I think about 2 weeks after that, we started receiving emails and some couple of calls. We got invites to breakfast shows where we got to network with different people from all walks of life, different startups, different companies, different organizations. We got to network and meet people who could help with investing, meet people who could help with marketing, meet people who could help with networking, and just basically get to really network with other startups who we got to sit down with them, and they taught us, or they told us about their startup stories, how they started, where they are, and basically just giving us motivation, which was really good for us because, you know, it helps you get to realize that you're actually not alone on this journey, and there's also other people who are like having startups and how basically they grow and all of that. And it was not just one email, we got like a few invites. I think we got invited like maybe 3 times, and a couple of calls of just people wanting to know their story. So that was one of the biggest highlights which came from the Legends of Change program for us. So I received a call from the NBC crew. That was around end of 2021, around November, that they were interested in filming me, my journey, filming LoC Medical Supplies. I was actually on a bus. I was coming from an exam venue. So I was actually excited. This is one of the things that lit up my mood that day because I came from a really hectic exam. I was excited, but I was also anxious at the same time because that meant that would be my first time on screen. So overall, the day came and the anxiety went away just like this. The NBC crew is amazing. A great group of people, really kind, really accommodating. For someone it was the first time on TV, they're really, really, really accommodating. And overall, the whole process was just smooth. I was literally smoothed into it and like talked through it and like corrected through it. So I had really, truly a great experience, and I'm grateful. To say my heart is really full, I'm grateful.
Previously, Julia did not really detail how hard life really is for a medical student and running a business. So let's hear about the additional high and lows she faced in 2022.
2022 was a bit bittersweet for me because it was my final year of medical school. So obviously it became a bit tough for me to juggle both business, and obviously everyone wants to finish strong, although it's not advised. Everyone wants to finish strong. So it was a bit of both. The highs that overall we went through it was great, and the highs were that I managed. One of the greatest things that I've learned this year, which is one of the key points, is to learn how to delegate. I've got such an amazing team who really also teach me a lot. Especially I'm one person who I tend to do things on my own because I don't know, I'm not really good with delegating. So that's one of the biggest things I've learned this year, to delegate. And it's also one of the biggest things, one of my highs this year. The lows, really, I think it was just, medical school. Going through it was a bit rough because now you are wanting, like I said, to finish strong. So it's a thing of like trying to be on top of the game in every rotation that you go, because at the end of the day, you want to graduate. And I think burnout, end year fatigue came a bit early in terms of that. So that was, I think, one of my key low points this year. But nonetheless, we made it through. We've cruised through it and we've come this far. So
Julia added an additional member to the LoC medical supplies team and shares what matters most in her life right now.
The one thing that I'm prioritizing right now is my company or my business. We are trying to grow and really learn in terms of marketing, in terms of networking, in terms of branding, in terms of leadership skills. So that's the one thing that we are currently all focused. We are currently a team of 3. So that's the one thing that we're all currently focusing on, to really grow and to see where we can improve, to see where we can do better in terms of customer service, to see which gaps we can fill. In terms of like we're doing as much research as we can. So I think that's the one thing, or the big thing, that we are really focusing on right now.
Financial mistakes or regrets. Are you usually spending more than you earn, or spending without a budget, which is also common in those with companies, and sometimes maybe also not charging the right prices? So what are Julia's financial mistakes and how does she intend on going about it in 2023?
I don't think to say I regret. I don't think I regret them, but I learned from them. Because especially for someone who's doing business with not much financial, or with not much literacy in that area, obviously it's trial and error. So I don't think to say I don't regret, but I think I've learned from them. So obviously we've trial and error as we go. Sometimes we buy stock and then nobody buys and then we make losses. I mean, sometimes we do well, other months we don't do well. I think it's also how business is. I've come to learn that that's also how business is. So I don't think I have any regrets, but I am truly grateful for all of the lessons I've learned, because that's our stepping stone to grow and do better in that area. So I think we've had a number of lessons and not regrets.
Mental health was highlighted as something that many neglect in our adult life, which is dangerous because health and mental health plays a big role in our everyday lives. It includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make healthy choices. Mental health is important at every stage of life, from childhood and adolescence through adulthood. So how important is this, especially for a medical practitioner such as Julia, and how does she take care of her mental health?
Mental health specifically is very important. It's something I always put first. Always. So in terms of journaling, in terms of going to therapy, I respect therapy so much, and I believe if you can, you definitely should have a psychologist or a therapist. So obviously we put ourselves first in that regard.
Obviously, pacing yourself, not doing too much to burn yourself out. Those are the key things that I'm prioritizing. Nonetheless, obviously, business is great, school is great, medicine is great, but nonetheless, your mental health always comes first in top of all of these things. So, yeah, that's how I'll be prioritizing my mental health in 2023.
At the turn of every year, many create New Year's resolutions as a guiding tool for that year's focus. So what are Julia's plans for the new year?
The one thing that I think people don't really get advice from, of course, it's great to have goals, but you don't have to break your back trying to make sure all of those goals are met. Because at the end of the day, we all try our best, we move towards our New Year's resolutions, but when things don't go well, it's still okay. You try again the following year. So I think that's the one thing. Just don't break your back trying to tick everything off, because sometimes things don't go as planned, and that's okay. So we try again 2024. It's okay.
She further tells us some of the difficult decisions she has had to make in the medical field.
Obviously, being a medical student is one of those, it's not an easy journey, but I think it's the passion that drives you. At the end of the day, you come home, you're tired, you don't even have any time for your friends, you don't even have time to do anything else, but the fulfillment comes from knowing that you may or may not have, you may have put a smile on a patient today. Like, there's always that one patient who's like, you know what, thank you, or you know what, I had such a great doctor-patient encounter with you today. You know, that is usually what drives you, and that passion is what wakes you up the next morning, despite the fires that you faced the day before. That is what is going to wake you up the next morning. That's why I keep saying that it's a bit hard to do medicine, maybe just for the money, because I don't even think there's much money in it, but it's the passion and the fulfillment at the end of the day that it gives you, and that's also what carries you through the 6 years, because it's not easy, but it's doable. And one thing that I always remind myself is, other people have done it, so can I. So if there's many groups that have made it through, definitely I know for sure God will strengthen me, and He will give me the strength to also make it. So for anybody who maybe sitting at home, thinking about doing medicine in the future, great. I highly recommend, but passion must also be there, and it should be the one thing that is going to drive you.
Oh, well, the food is great. It's amazing. Katakombe in town is the place to go. The service is great. The food literally takes like 5 seconds. Yeah. The staff is really kind. So this is the place to come.
We'd just like to thank Katakombe restaurant in town for a very great service and a very delicious meal. I'd highly recommend.
If all your New Year resolutions don't go accordingly, don't stress yourself too much. Let's try to fulfill them again next year, said Julia. On that note, we can never thank Kamaya Restaurant, also known as Katakombe Restaurant in town, enough for offering their signature traditional meals to our community legends and heroes. They couldn't stop talking about the flavors and the service and all that Katakombe Restaurant has to offer, and they are definitely going back there. I hope we will see you there too. Thank you for enjoying this special edition, because there are many more coming. See you next week, Legends of Change lovers.